Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Your story can be encouraging, inspiring, and very transforming. We want guests to share their experiences and events in their lives that can benefit someone else. We all have a story, so we ask you to contact our website to let us know that you would like to share your experiences and events to help someone else. You can do that by just going to dealbyme.com. Also, if you're listening to this podcast, please give us a comment and share it with others. And if you viewed it on YouTube, we ask that you will leave us a comment and also consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. We are grateful today to have with us Bill Hendricks, who says that he found success later on in life. As a matter of fact, he says success isn't always what it seems from the outside. He speaks from experience because he says he found success at a very young age. And that's was contrary to what I just said. So don't pay me any attention. Listen to what he says. He was living in one of the most beautiful places on earth, he says, and from the outside, everything looked perfect, but something was always missing. And so, surrounded by material success with everything in place by normal standards, he says he found himself dissatisfied and nothing seemed to fill the emptiness inside. I know that we're going to hear from someone who is exciting and compelling today. So let us welcome Bill Hendricks to the podcast today. Bill, it's good to have you come and share with us on our podcast. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are being interviewed from?
Sure, James. I will, but first I want to go back and say you actually stated it the right way, and I'll
Okay.
explain that in a second. Okay.
All right.
Uh, so I live in an RV full time. I just arrived in Las Vegas. I'll be here 2 weeks, and on my way back across country to Vermont for the summer. So I travel around the country while I do this. I did. I found I found success at a very young age, but I was miserable, miserable, miserable. And the truth of the matter is, once I decided, and I'll tell you just a little bit about that, I found extreme happiness. And extreme happiness is in a league of its own. Success doesn't even come close
Mhm.
because success is everything outside of you, and extreme happiness is everything inside of you. Huge, huge difference between
Mhm.
those two. I walked away from my life almost 30 years ago because I was so miserable. It was chaotic, crazy. I had low self esteem. I can go, I could take the whole half hour and tell you about all the problems, but I want to talk to people about what I found. I literally walked away from my life, changed everything but my name. And I'm still in that transition today. I'm still learning. Life is, we're here to learn. Here is what I've learned as I've cracked the code to happiness. Everyone is living with a blindfold on, making decisions based on who they aren't.
Mhm.
That's a fact. Our lives are out of control and nobody wants to admit it because we don't know the day we're going to die,
Mhm.
right? So, what I found is everything, it took me into the study of metaphysics, into energy, into why I couldn't express this love I had in my heart, why I was filled with chaos and anger and just all the things going on. And when I started looking, what I found was we live in two distinctly different dimensions. We live in a physical dimension, James. That's called life, right?
Mhm.
Life is only about work, lack of clarity, suffering.
Mhm.
That's the best you're going to get out of life. Very best.
Mhm.
But if I ask you about one of the most special times in your life, James, and you reflect on that for a second, you're not going to go back to what happened. You're going to go back to how it made you feel.
Mm. Okay.
People will never remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Have you ever heard that before?
Oh, sure.
It's all about energy. So, in my quest to find out why I was so miserable, I found out the answers to live in extreme happiness. And the answer is you have to live from the inside. The outside doesn't matter. What's going on outside of you is going to happen whether you're here or not. So it's all about how we react to what's going on outside of us, James. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So here's what I've learned. One, we all have life lessons. What does that mean? That means we're born into life and we're immediately put into a life of survival because that's what everyone here knows. You got to work hard, you got to survive
Hmm.
food, water, shelter, everything in the physical. But because of these blind spots we have, there's 38 different life lesson paths for life. Okay. If you're curious, I can tell you yours if you want to know. I just need your birthday. But what this means is if you have a life lesson, which is absolutely true,
Hmm.
then you have an area where you have a blind spot that's massive because your whole focus is on how you survive with what you got.
Mm. I hear
Have you
you.
noticed? Let me give you an example. I know you know some people who always have relationship problems,
Hmm.
and you look at them and go, why is that? Why can't they? You have other people who have money problems. You have other people who have confidence problems. I mean, I go on and on.
Hmm.
It's because of these life lessons. So when you look at it, here is the truth. We live in a very narrow boundaries in our life of ignorance. Our ignorance is so overwhelming, it's astonishing what we don't know.
Mm. Mm.
We don't know anything. And we're making decisions out of reaction based upon the energy and the stories inside of us. And that's what's taking us sideways. Does that make sense?
Sure. I hear you very well. I'm curious what you're saying, and especially when you talked about you know you were living, I think, very successful at a very young age, and I assume that entailed being in a nice home,
Oh,
and all the
hey,
other amenities that go with it, and you somehow gave that up. It seemingly to just live in a maybe some people would call it motorhome, whatever, and travel the country. So, are you saying that all of the other stuff that you had, nice home, cars, and all that, was outside appearance, and you still was not happy because there was something on the inside that had not been filled? Am I saying that correctly?
you 100%.
Okay.
Nothing in the material world, nothing can bring you extreme happiness.
Okay.
It is impossible.
All right.
It must come from within.
I got that. I got that.
So what people do, I give a keynote talk, a speech on surviving versus thriving. Surviving is all about life in the physical. It's about having a now remember, in the physical life, having wonderful things, there's nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
Nothing at all. You can have as much wealth as you want. The thing I'm looking at is where are you inside? Where is your heart? How do you respond to things? And Where is your interest? Is your interest in your luxuries and your wealth, or is your interest in the love you can share and be of service to others? There's a massive difference between those two. We are here on earth to learn our lessons and to share we each have a very unique gift, and we're here to share that with all of the world from a place of love for the benefit of all involved all the time. The mistake that people make about life purpose, James, is they think their life purpose is what they do.
Okay.
That is wrong.
Okay.
That is not true. Your life purpose is the energy you do anything with.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you this, as we're dealing with your story here. You mentioned during your talk that many people are living with blindfolds on.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean when you say that?
They literally don't know what's going on around them.
Okay.
They're always in reaction to whatever's going on outside of them.
Okay.
And protecting their position. They're in a defensive place. People live very defensively, protecting everything they have. And it's interesting. The number one fear that everyone has is fear of loss. Yet loss is the number one component in life because nobody's getting out of this alive.
Okay.
We've come in and we're, right?
I hear you. I got you.
But it's all about this. We have this feeling of loss rather than rejoicing in the moment of me having the opportunity this morning to spend some time with James Smith on his podcast and just be present to James and share my love and share my wisdom through your podcast. The rest of the world doesn't matter. We're just here to do some good.
Well said. How do you find, your life purpose? Because it seems to me with somebody who has had everything, that they would think, most people would think that's, I'm living my dream. So tell listeners of this podcast, how do you find your life purpose?
So the person that has everything and they're living that dream, the dream that they're living is others' opinion outside of themselves based on their physical trappings. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many different pieces that come into this. I wrote a book on it. It's called The 7 Levels of Truth, A Direct Path to Your Life Purpose. This is everything I use in my coaching programs when I show clients how to live their life purpose. It's all in my book. It's available on Amazon, The 7 Levels of Truth. Best thing is to read the book. You have to learn about your divine gifts. When you understand we have chakras. Are you familiar with chakras, James? We all have 7 chakras in our body that energy flows through. And each of those chakras carries a very distinct energy. And each of those, it starts with the root chakra with divine compassion, then divine creation, divine order, divine healing, divine authentic self-expression, divine truth, and then divine power from the crown chakra. These are the energies. And when you're not familiar with them and you're not using them as they intended, they come out with penalties. Now you add to that, we have life lessons, 38 different life paths with billions of combinations. And I'm able to show people exactly what their divine gifts are, exactly what their life lessons are. Then add to that, you have the cosmos, astrology, which I don't know much about, but I know the planets are all doing their thing and it's affecting us energetically here on Earth. That I know beyond a shadow of a doubt. And then on top of that, you got everybody else in the world running around acting like they know what the hell they're doing, when in fact they don't. They're living up to social policing, what other people are going to say. So that the best way would be to get my book. If you want to do a clarity, you can go to.
Well, I'm going to ask you about that as we move on. Want to make sure that we can I'm allow you the opportunity to share your book
Thank you.
Where folks can get it. But I want to ask you this question. you talked about, your life purpose, and I know from your profile that you talk about three important keys to living your life purpose. Would you tell us what that they are
I will.
in as brief as you can?
One, one must do a very, very detailed self-analysis of what's going on inside of them. We are constitutionally incapable of being honest with ourselves. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you must understand your life lessons. If you have blind spots that you're bumping into causing you challenges, wouldn't it be nice to know that you're in the middle of a storm and you could back off and go, oh, I'm in a place there. It's like driving over the mountain where there's 4 feet of snow. You make sure you take care of yourself. But we're living life with this huge blind spots that we know nothing about. Okay, causes all kinds of disruption. And then understand your energetic self and your energetic values. Those are all that really matter in life.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's good to know, and I know listeners would appreciate knowing those three important keys to living your life's purpose. I have a my podcast is about encouraging, inspiring,
Mm-hmm.
and transforming. And I'm trying to get the connection and trying to help you give that connection to my listeners, to listeners of this podcast. Uh, what is it about what you say, or can you share with them uh, if they're going through something, if they
Mm-hmm.
feel this emptiness on the inside, if they, you know, even
Mm-hmm.
might be
Right.
in the best home or have a nice car, but
Mm-hmm.
still find that
Means nothing. Yeah.
exactly. Talk to them just a little bit.
You know, here's what this is going to take people to a place that they may have a little difficulty understanding this, but this is 100% correct.
Mhm.
Number one, when you're living outside of yourself, when you're living out in the physical, you're a victim. You're a victim to everybody's judgment, blame, shame, and guilt. You're looking for approval. When you live, when you live from inside, you're coming from a place of power, James. You know that you're unique. You know that you're powerful. There's nothing in the world around you. The only thing you ever see is you. So if you see someone and they make you angry, they didn't make you angry. They just reminded you how angry you really are.
Mm.
And you're you're the one that can change that anger story, because you can't have an emotion without a story. So if you say something to me and it pisses me off, there's a story inside of me that tells me that's not good, that you've harmed me, none of which is true. It's the story and belief and the low self-esteem in me that confirms what you said is right and allows me to express my anger.
Mm.
How's that for a tip?
Oh, I hear it very well. Very, very interesting. Listeners, don't,
Notice that the anger is energy.
okay,
What's going Everything else is in the physical. So it's how you respond to that
I follow you. I follow you. Listeners, don't go in a place because Bill is going to come back
anger.
and share some more tips with us, and very interesting conversation with him today. But first, I want to ask Bill, for folks who are interested in learning more about you, want to get your books. Uh, Tell us a little bit about how they can learn more about you, get
Great.
your books or what have you. Would you share that with us?
Yes. Uh, if you're interested in what I'm talking about or curious, the number one thing to do would be go to Amazon and get my book, The 7 Levels of Truth, A Direct Path to Your Life Purpose. If you would like a signed copy of the book from me, you can go to my website, True Life Purpose Now, and order a book I'll sign a copy and send it to you. That's a great place to start. If you're really finished with being miserable, you can go to speaktobill.com and set up a 20-minute clarity call with me. However, when you do that, please understand that the number one thing I'm going to ask you is if you're fully committed to really moving forward with this. This is not a game of chit chat. What I teach people, and I've been coaching CEOs, executives, people from all over the world for 15 years, okay? The tools and the guideposts I show people, James, are so powerful, okay? Listen to this. They're so powerful. I give you a 100% money back guarantee that you will be living your life purpose. Let me repeat that. No questions asked, 100% money back guarantee that you'll be living your life purpose. In 15 years, I've never refunded any money. And these are facts. Why do I give a guarantee? It's because I want people to feel safe. This is going to be a totally new way of living. They aren't sure what's going to, people are afraid to change, but when you change and live your life purpose, you end up with you.
Uh-huh.
You have all of you. And James, there's nothing sweeter in the world than having all of yourself. There's no yachts, there's no airplanes, there's no nothing that can replace that feeling.
This is powerful information you're sharing today, Bill. It takes a reframing of
Totally.
the thought pattern to get to where you are. But I do understand what you're saying, and I know listeners are picking up on it.
Let me explain something. You just said it'll take a reframing of your thought pattern. What it requires is you start thinking with your heart. Your mind is not your friend. Your mind can only research the past. Your mind can't come in and create intimacy in a loving relationship. Only your heart can.
You sound like my wife. My wife tells me that all the time. She says, "Stop thinking with your mind. I do what my heart tells me to do."
Well, then, James, you want to listen to your wife more because she's 100% correct. Get her on the phone. Let's find out what's going on. But you want to know something? I deal with this with couples all the time.
Okay.
That's where the miscommunication comes from.
I got you. I understand. Well, tell me, how long does it take to accomplish this change of, I like to call it thought pattern or whatever?
It's not a thought pattern. Your thoughts are not our friends.
All right. Okay. So
they aren't our friends because thoughts only protect us.
Okay. So
our mind and our ego can only protect us. That's all it knows how to do. Your heart is here to give love. Here's how long it takes. You can transform your life at the speed of choice.
Okay.
One choice changed it all.
Okay. Now I agree with that part. See, because I've been there. I practiced law, became a gambler, committed a crime, spent some time in prison, and came out, went back to school, pastoring for 32 years, just retired at the same church.
Wow.
And now doing podcasting, and my podcast is just awesome. I've got, all over. And so I know what it takes, to that choice you have to make. So I'm with you 100% with that.
Let me tell you something about your experience that you've just explained. There isn't one moment of your past that you would give up. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
And the reason for that is because it took you into your inner being and you got to rebuild yourself. And all of your gratitude comes from the mistakes that you've made because you're able to connect with others at the level of pain and misery that they're living in and show them a way to move into a new way of life. Is that correct?
Oh, sure. No question about it. No question. So I agree with you. I agree with that.
It's a gift.
So what? So then, so I assume you've already said this, but I'm just kind of curious for listeners. What blocks us from finding, our life purpose? What blocks us?
Wow.
What's that?
The number one thing that blocks you
Uh-huh.
is defensiveness.
Is defensiveness?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
A
Okay.
defensive attitude.
Okay. Okay.
Because when you're defending something, you're protecting it. Is that correct?
That's true.
Okay. But with love, the more you give, the more you get.
Hmm. That is true.
You can't protect anything with your heart, James.
Mm.
Only your head. Tell
Okay.
your wife that.
Uh, she,
She'll laugh.
no, I think she already knows it.
She knows it. That's why she'll laugh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she
It's
already knows.
defensiveness. We
Okay.
protect ourselves. Here's my life. I know what it is. Hey, it isn't bad. And it's whether you're living on the street or you're living in a mansion, you have
Mhm.
these beliefs,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
So you defend where you're at rather than being in a place of service for the benefit of all involved. Period.
Okay.
When you do that, your whole life changes instantly. I know you know that
Okay.
because you have done that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is awesome. Let me ask you this because this is I've seen this in your uh, profile also. What do you mean by surviving or thriving?
Okay. Physical life is only about survival.
Okay.
We need food, water, shelter. This is what we learned right away.
Okay.
Okay. And the truth of the matter is this is everybody's focused on getting to death safely.
Okay. Mm. I like that.
Isn't that true?
I like that. Yeah, no question
That's
about
what survival is.
it. Uh-huh. Okay.
Everything outside of us. Do you have enough money? Do you have this? Or what are you going to do every time? What about that? None of it's all people pushing their agendas on all of us. But when you come from a place of power, you have the capability and capacity to do anything you desire. Anything. You can create anything you desire. There are no limits in the other dimension, the non-physical dimension. There's only a vibration. Everything in the universe runs on a vibration, scientifically proven. If your vibration is one of anger, what are you going to attract? Anger. If yours is one of love, what are you going to attract? You're going to attract love. It's like pretty simple, right?
I love
Like
it.
attracts like. That's the
I
way the
love it.
universe works.
I love it. Bill, you have been an interesting
I
guest
told you
today
we would be.
with some transformational uh, sh- sharing that I know has benefited listeners of this podcast. And so I'm just grateful to you for coming and sharing with us today. This has been awesome. Uh, so there we have it.
I
Bill
appreciate
Hendricks
being.
saying that his personal transformation is at the core of his essence, and it is who he is. He lets us know that he has walked in our shoes and that our experiences might not have been exactly the same. And so he
But
walks us
but how
through it
we felt is
and how
see,
we
that's our
felt.
connection in life is how we feel.
Thank you so very much, Bill, for this awesome sharing with listeners today. I've been taken aback. I've been taken aback. Thank you so
Good.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
so very much.